All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Nonprofit Enthusiasts Live. Today, we're going to be continuing the conversation of this month's topic of community building. Special thanks to our sponsor for this month who came on last week, Prosper and Partners, which is a global personal and organizational consulting firm that seeks to develop innovative solutions to complex problems. And we want to just thank them for sponsoring this month's Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. So definitely please check them out. Follow their Facebook group, and we're going to share that in the chat box. So last week we had a wonderful conversation on community building as a kickoff of the month of September, and we have some amazing guests that will be continuing to join us this month. So definitely tune in. And like I like to say, if you're like, I don't know what to do in my nonprofit, it's just I'm spread so many different ways. Follow our theme. So if this month theme is community building, make that your goal this month. So if you're here tuning in, go ahead, give us a hey, how you doing in the chat box. Go ahead, invite your friends to the Facebook group and tag them into the comments. If you're catching us on replay, give us a hashtag replay so that we know that you are tuning in with us. And then we're going to kick off the conversation on continuing to talk about community building. So good morning, Vic. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Bonnie. Thank you for joining us. And if you all want to share some works that you're doing in community building, if you have any questions throughout, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. And we're going to get started shortly to allow time for others to come in before we dive into today's continuation of this month's theme, community building. Don't forget, if you missed any of the previous lives, that you can go over to the top where you see guides, go into the guide section of this group, click on it, and then you'll see all of the previous lives that took place. So let's say you might say, hey, I'm having challenges with board development. You'll see a section there that says board development, and you can look at some of our past lives there. So don't forget that that resource is here and available in the group. Good morning, Danita. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back. So glad you can be here. All right, so we're going to jump right in. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So this month's topic, and we started a conversation last week, is community building. And we started talking about the importance of it for nonprofits. Sometimes we hear community building and instantly we think about physical buildings. You know, the community needs new homes, the community needs new community centers, new parks, and things like that. But for the purpose of this month's theme, as we're going throughout the month, we are focusing on community building, the aspect of building infrastructure and relationships. So connecting with people, connecting with organizations. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about community building this month. And as much as we want to, as a leader, do it all ourselves, because that is a constant, you know, as a nonprofit professional, we like to wear multiple hats. We like to, but we don't like to at the same time, right? So we like to wear multiple hats, and we sometimes can easily just end up in a silo doing everything ourselves, not only just us, but our organization, just getting so used to just doing everything ourselves. But I'm here to tell you, and some of you may not like this, but working 100% independently is stifling not only your community's growth, your organization's growth, but your growth as well. So my hopes is, as we talk about community building this month, that you get, if that's you, if you're like, I'm just gonna do it, because it's so easy to say, I could just do it, I'm just gonna do it faster, and whichever, I could just knock it out by the time I train someone or show someone or partner with someone, it could have been done, you know. If that's you, you're stifling the growth. I'm sorry to be the one to deliver this news, and some of you already know this. You're stifling growth of your organization, your community, and even yourself personally. So the hopes is that you will understand the importance of community building and start thinking about ways that you can involve others in order to ultimately increase the impact that you have in the community for your nonprofit organization. And that's the purpose of these lives. They're here. Our goal, it exists to help take your organization to the next level. So sometimes we got to face that reality of, yep, I can't do this alone anymore. And that's something on like almost every live we talk about, that you can't do it alone. There is value in community, even for us in this Facebook group. There's value in us all being here and being able to share our expertise. So please, please, please understand the importance of community building and the impacts that it can have on the work that you do within your nonprofit. So you might be asking, how do I start the community building process? So last week's live, if you missed it, Joe and Cobra was on and shared some amazing tips. Go back and definitely check out that live. We talked about some of this. So you're like, how do I start the community building process? And I'm just going to highlight some pieces from that conversation. Some of the things that was brought up is you're being vulnerable. You must have vulnerability, your organization, and that's you stepping outside of just doing it alone. You're gonna have to give some and take some. There's also conversation, we talked about collaboration takes trust. And it does, because sometimes, working with other organizations, you do have to have a level of trust to be able to that you both are working in the best interest of, number one, the community and of each other. So that way you're bringing your missions together. No one's losing their identity as a part of the process, but you're able to trust one another that we're going to accomplish this goal together, because we're much better together, right? And taking a look at your community's readiness for the community building process, and what does that look like. So that's some of those tips. If you missed it, definitely go and check out that last week's nonprofit enthusiast live. All right, so I'm going to take a quick little break, see how everyone is doing. Hey, Brenda, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, exactly, Danita. It is not fun doing it alone. It is draining. And you all know we talked about this in, if you may have heard, and I've talked about this a lot, people, processes, and technology, a concept that's oftentimes used in business, but we also as nonprofits should adopt that mindset. And part of that growth is that people portion of being able to collaborate, not only internally with staffing, volunteers, interns, but also externally bringing other people to the table, so that you all can have a greater impact on the community. Good morning, Shantae. So good to see you. All right, so let's continue the conversation, and go ahead and drop in the chat box, what does community building look like for you in your organization? And I'm going to go over some additional tips about the process of community building. So community building is ongoing. So community building is not a one-time deal. It's not like, today I attended this meeting and check, community building done. All right, back into my silo, back into my box. No, it's not that. It's an ongoing process, and it requires consistent effort. And strategy. You have to be intentional. That's something we like to talk about, being intentional about how this, what this looked like for your organization. And it's going to look different for each organization. So something you should definitely, and it's something you should definitely build into your strategic planning process, because you want it to be intentional, consistent, and effective. So your strategic plan should have some conversation about what community building looks like for your organization. It's us partnering with these organizations and doing XYZ. So you do want to have that information in there, because this is an ongoing long-term process. And there's little steps that you have to take to get there. So it's not just an overnight, this week I'm going to get community building done. It's not. So definitely something that you should involve into your strategic planning process. Your storytelling and engagement skills are important. Remember, people remember stories. You want to keep the community updated on what's going on. So let's say you built all these partnerships, you have all of this going on. You want to be able to continue to share. Well, this is why, this is the impact that we're making collaboratively, and still what your organization is doing on its own. You want to keep people connected, and that way they also, through the community building process, you have additional advocates that you didn't even imagine you may have. So you built all these relationships with organizations. They're out and about in the community. You're kind of able to kind of spread your wings a little bit further, because they're out in the community. They might be at an event. They're looking for a certain organization or something. They call your name because they're familiar with it. They're familiar with the stories and the impact that you're having in the community. They're familiar with your work. So that's more advocates for you. So there is so much benefits in getting out of your area and trying to do everything and wearing all the hats and getting into community and involving others within the process. And so later on this month, we'll have Jalen will be joining us back on live and talking a little bit about, we'll talk a little bit about that storytelling component, especially from his expertise as in public relations. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on this month. And something else you want to do is balance your online and offline presence. Yes, we especially going through the pandemic, a lot of us has become really comfortable with just doing everything online. We advertise online, we're networking online, we're doing everything. Why do we need to leave the house, right? But you also want to have offline presence. You know, attend those meetings, especially if there's meetings in your community that aligns with what your mission is. Let's say your organization is a youth-driven organization and there's a youth task force taking place. You want to be represented there, whether it's you, your board member, someone. You want to have presence offline within the community. So don't just focus on your social media presence, your website presence. Also, you want to do some offline presence before. I truly believe, in addition to the online presence, that there's something special about that word of mouth, right? When you hear, and even for myself, when someone says to me like, hey, Lashina, you got to go, I'm a foodie, so you got to go try this food place. It's just really, really good. Guess what? I'm going to that food place, especially if the person is someone that I know and trust. I'm going there. I'm not asking no questions. I'm not looking for, like, I'm done. So having that offline presence, having people advocate on your behalf, being able to give those word of mouth referrals and talk about your organization is just amazing. And just some of the additional benefits of community building for your organization. All right. So if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on what community building looks like for your organization, go ahead, drop that in the chat box. So the tips that I just gave, community building is ongoing. Your storytelling and engagement skills are important, and balance your online and your offline presence. So you all know I like to leave with homework. So your homework is, and I'll even put it in the chat for you all, is to, one, assess your existing organization community building efforts. What are you doing to get out and involve others so that you are strengthening your community? What does that look like? And then identify areas of improvement. Or if you don't have a strategy at all, this is your opportunity to start thinking about, what can I do more of? What can, whether it's my board member, my staff, how can we all extend what we're doing to get outside of our organization and into the community? So think about what that looks like, and don't forget to use SMART when defining. So remember to be smart when defining these goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, go ahead, and earlier this year around January, we did a live just on that and how you should create those goals. So check that out. And create SMART goals, because it's so easy for us to just say, okay, I'm going to start getting involved in more boards. Okay. And this happens a lot where, like, let's say we're defining goals and someone will just say, okay, I want to be on more boards. Okay, tell me more, and that's the process that that some people may get irritated on. Like I just told you, I want to be on more board. No, 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 no. We want to know more than that. So you want to be on more boards. How many boards do you want to be on? What type of boards do you want to be on? When do you want to be on those boards? These are the things that when you're writing these goals out, make sure that you include the answers to those. So there's no room for error. There's no room for you to not achieve the goals because you already thought out what this is going to look like. Now it's just putting it into action. Okay. So that's your homework. Assess your organization's community building efforts, identify areas of improvement and strategies to improve. And of course, as usual, if you ever need help, we are here. Go ahead, schedule some time to talk to us, and I will go ahead and drop this homework. Let me put it right now into the chat box. There we go. All right, awesome. So that is homework. Hey, Joe. Good to see you. Yes, be intentional. All right. So before we wrap up today, I just wanted to close out with a few different things to think about. So I love quotes. So I'm going to close out on these quotes and just something for us to think about. So one of the quotes are, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And that's a quote by Mother Teresa. And my thought is that concept of us as nonprofits just doing our part, casting the stone. Yeah, we might not be able to change the whole world, but you all know that analogy about just throw the stone, and the impact and the reach that you have means a lot versus just trying to keep it within your own organization. Especially when it comes to community building. That's why I wanted to share these quotes. So another one is, some people think they are in community, but they are only in proximity. True community requires commitment and openness. It is a willingness to extend yourself to encounter and know the other. So that kind of sums up a lot of what we talked about. And that was David Spangler. And then last but not least, my favorite quote, and one that you'll hear me say often, by Walter Payton: we are stronger together than we are alone. So our goal is not to be trying to do things alone. So we are much stronger together, us as a community. In everything that you do, collaboration is key. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We have so much amazing guests that will be joining us. So make sure you tune in, check out the events page for the upcoming live. Actually, I can tune it in. We have Cindy from ACEs Matter will be on next week, and you all may be familiar with ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And I mean, the work that she's doing within her nonprofit, I'm just excited for her to come on and share that work with you all. So please make sure that you tune in to next week live. You can RSVP using the link in the chat. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.